Well, first of all, I think choking is always a weird thing to discuss because we don't know what's happening mentally for a lot of these players when they're on stage. Like maybe after an interview, they talk about being nervous or unable to perform, and then you can kind of talk about choking. But I think when we look at Europe's performance last year, choking is a bad excuse. Most of the teams in the world just weren't good enough to consistently beat other strong teams in international play, especially in best of ones. And that was really a big problem if you look at, let's say, G2, which is obviously the big example. MSI, when they were swapping 2 players and everything kind of fell apart before the tournament even started, it's easy to criticize them, say, yeah, you choked on stage. No, they had no synergy. The players didn't practice. It was a mess. That was never going to work. At Worlds with G2, I think we had a fairly weak summer split in terms of overall competitiveness. And I think G2 going on that stage were not good enough. So yes, you can say maybe they choked and played worse than normal, and they probably played a little bit worse. But what I think it comes down to is that when they did not play against a team that had faced multiple times in scrims in Europe, that they knew in and out, then they got surprised. When everything didn't go as planned, and teams didn't respect him the way teams respect him in Europe, it just backfired. And G2 has always had an issue when 1 or 2 big things goes wrong in the early game, the communication can kind of break down. And the game plan gets thrown out the window. Think back to the CLG game 1 of Worlds 2016. I'd spent months hyping up G2. I had one-on-ones with Jad telling him, G2, I know MSI happened, forget it. This is it. This team is legit. They're good. Game 1 happens, and there are some of these plays where like Sven is left alone in the bottom lane early. He gets dove by Xmithy. There's a play in mid lane where Perks dies in a 2v2 to also Xmithy. They're behind 3k gold. Game plan is out the window. G2 falls apart. And then the pressure is on them. Then the choking can start because now MSI is happening again. The number 1 team in Europe are once again underperforming. And maybe then you can start talking about like this whole choking thing. But I think coming into it, the bottom line is they were just not good enough as a team to consistently beat other good international teams. And that's why they ended up not getting out of groups. So I guess to answer your question, how do we avoid choking? We get better. That's important. That is one of the key things. Like I think we've had a very competitive split now where if these teams with this practice have not gotten good enough to take down North American or Chinese teams in best of ones, well then we're just all the same level very clearly and we're not a level above them. So the EU broadcast used to be all about Jomila, D-Man, like the 2 legends. Back when I joined, they were still here, taught me a lot of things, was a great year back in 2014 when it came to learning. When they left, I think it left the EU broadcast in some ways without an identity. Now, I would like to believe that last year we got that back. And I think this year we've been working even more on it. Like, I think we have an identity now. It became at first a lot about like color casting. Krep and I kind of tried to push that narrative, but I think now as a broadcast, I think we have become an extremely close group with different people, very different people. Like a Trevor or Quickshot cast compared to a Pirate cast are super different. Shocks on the analyst desk is very unique in what she's doing, brings something that no one else can bring as well. And the same with the different color casters. So we have this broadcast now where I feel like there's room to innovate, which is what I'm hoping our identity becomes, that we're not afraid to try something new. Being it new segments, being it new ways to cast the game, have a little bit more fun in certain games, try and dive deeper when it comes to the game and macro and these kind of things in other games. And I'm hoping people kind of see how many different things we're actually doing. And this is everyone doing this, and it can change from day to day, from show to show, because we have a lot of freedom due to some great producers kind of allowing us, within a certain limit, to try different things and find out what works. Like, we're going to have more breakdowns at Telestrators where we're drawing and pausing and zooming in and out certain things. We're going to have, more player guests up on the analyst desk. Like, they're getting better and better at doing it. We're getting better and better at using them. Like, we do stuff on this broadcast that I don't feel like any other broadcast is doing right now when it comes to League of Legends. And I'm hoping people can appreciate that, but also understand that it takes time to kind of perfect that style. You can't just put a player on the analyst desk and he'll be perfect. He also needs help, and you need to find the right people. So my hope is that with the next few years, we keep to this innovative style where we're not afraid to try new things and we do not get locked in the same routine day in and day out. And that each individual member, both casters but also players, get to shine on our broadcast. Get to kind of show their personality and who they are and what they can bring to a show and how they can entertain that, because in the end it comes down to entertainment. And I think we are in the right direction, and I think it's been a positive split when it comes to our broadcast team. And I think we have moved past some of the older names, and we have a strong team in itself, where everyone is still trying to improve, everyone knows they can still get better, and no one is just resting, sitting and saying, yeah, it's perfectly fine right now. But I'm proud of our team, I'll say that. And I think we've done a lot of fun stuff this split, and I've seen a lot of people enjoy the fun stuff, so that's good. I think my favorite research, I have two favorite research topics. One is pick and ban phase. I've always been super fascinated at pick and ban phase because it's like these mind games between teams and coaches, and there's so many things that goes into a pick and ban phase. It's not just what are the 5 best picks in each role, let's pick them every time. That doesn't work. Everything from preferences from the players and the teams into understanding what is the best meta, being able to kind of separate metas between different regions, comfort picks over sometimes the best available, like at certain points, picking what is the number one pick in the meta is not as good as picking what is the best pick for your player. All these different things, and then understanding counters. If you ask one pro player, he thinks this champion will counter, this other champion. If you ask the other pro player, he says it's the other way around. All these factors goes into pick and ban phases, and you can look at every single region. You can see different trends. You will never see just the same pick and ban phase across every region. Even this split, where I felt like in many ways the meta were a little bit locked until recently, we still would see preferences in pick order, how you draft certain compositions. Korea would be able to execute these no tank comps, other regions couldn't. These things, I think, they're fascinating. They're fantastic to watch and follow that trend. And then I think for me, I've always loved the mid game. I used to love lane swaps. I used to sit with Crapo for hours and just discuss lane swaps. And when we removed them, we were like, no, this is our thing. We would always be able to kind of explain what was going on. But now I've moved on to the mid game. And the reason I say mid game is because in the mid game, a lot of what happens is big macro decisions that gets made. And you can call them rotations as an example. But understanding how to play split push mainly comes down to the mid game. Understanding how to play this defensive comp that needs to scale, a lot of that comes down to the mid game. Once you pass the mid game, you most of the time will have either that goal lead you need to then kind of try and push for the win. Then it becomes all about setting up Baron, getting the Baron, and then use that to win the game, which is the same for a lot of things. Or if you play this pure teamfight comp, once you pass the mid game, maybe that's where you now can start winning team fights. So the mid game in itself is so important because that's where a lot of games swing. It's also where good macro teams can really get a huge advantage. It's so often we see SKT lose a few kills in the early game, be down 1 or 2k gold, and then the mid game kicks in. They understand vision, they understand how to trade, they understand where to pressure on the map, and they get back into the game like that. And you're just but hang on, you were losing the early game. Why are you still why does it feel like you're winning every lane when you're 0-4 as a team? That comes down to the mid game again. And because there's so many things to talk about, you can kind of split them up in different games and mention certain things. But it can be everything from how to execute comps, vision control, pressure, understanding power spikes. It used to be a meme with the power spikes, but they're so important. And I'm trying to think of all these ideas of ways to explain using ancient Roman strategies of how they would fight in these multiple formations. And if they had a winning left flank, they could pressure through the left flank and then open up into the enemy. And you can do the same with split push now. If your left flank, your top lane is winning, then that's an opening and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to kind of figure out how to really explain it, but I'm so fascinated by it. And when I talk to people like Prolly, and we really have these big discussions about what's happening in the mid game, it's like sometimes this whole new world opens up where there's a thing you never thought about, but it's actually super impactful, and it just changes everything. Because suddenly you're like, oh damn, I need to look for this, because when this happens, then it stops this from happening, it stops this from happening. And it's just fascinating to then research that and learn it from yourself, but also then listen to what other people think, because it's all opinion based. But it all happens in game, and it can all happen without even seeing it on screen, because it's suddenly about the minimap and the big play. I think a lot of research when it comes to League of Legends, you can split it up into multiple different groups. I think one of the groups is always like being up to date with the current stuff, like the current meta, players, everything. When it comes to one of the other groups is be able to understand the history part of regions, teams, players, play styles. Because everything in League of Legends is like you build upon already existing things. Like no meta just comes out of nowhere. It's because at some point, part of this meta that is now a thing happened, and a lot of players remember that part. Let's say it's a split push meta. That has happened since Season 1. Things you learned in Season 1, some of them are still viable right now. So you just keep building on top of it. So for me, I love being able to kind of think back and remember, when did certain things happen? When did certain things start? Which team started it? What did they do? What has changed? And follow that evolution in many ways helps when it comes to understanding new things. Because a lot of concepts that happens in League, they're not just randomly from nowhere and no one has ever seen them before. Very often we've seen a part of it, and now we see a more maybe detailed version, a well-executed version of it. But a lot of the rules apply 3 years ago and now to a lot of different things. So I think being able to kind of go back in history and kind of look back at a lot of things and remember them is important. I also think it's important for player story. Like no one wants to stand there at Worlds and talk about, Smep and be like, yeah, Smep, pretty sure he's a rookie. I don't think I've really seen him before, like your credibility is gone. Like you need to remember, okay, he was on this team, he did this, he was really bad in his first year, and then he became really good, and like this was his kind of play style. I feel like to really explain a player, it's a lot of notes, it's a lot of boring stuff sometimes, but I think it's worth it in the end as long as you can kind of cut it into pieces and deliver it a little bit at a time, never too much. So what do I want to talk about? I definitely want to have, there's one thing I want to say. And if you have a question after, that's perfectly fine. But I want to give like a massive thank you to a lot of different people. It's not an Oscar speech. I'm not thanking my mom and everything. But the fact that the community, after what was a very rough year for me when I first started, first time I ever done anything on broadcast, any casting, like it wasn't great. I felt like things after a year turned and then very quickly picked up speed. And I've been getting so many positives, comments, notes, everything from people. And it's obviously fantastic. Like it feels great that people really appreciate what you do. And I obviously want to thank a lot of people for doing that, like taking the time to send a message, really enjoying what I'm doing. And I really hope that those people as well can see how other people are also working extremely hard. Like there's always a lot of hate on newer casters, on certain casters, and they are in the situation I was in a few years ago, and it can change so quickly. But it's hard for a lot of people to kind of accept a lot of the negativity that's going on, and it's not as easy as just don't visit any social media ever. Like that's not how it works. So I really hope people will give newer guys a chance. And if you want to give feedback, like don't let it be you suck. Like let it be, hey, I don't think it's very good when you're doing this and this and this. And maybe the guy picks up on it. Like obviously internal feedback is happening a lot, but sometimes people need that confidence boost as well from other people than their colleagues. Because if I keep telling the same guy you're doing great, at some point it might lose a little bit of value for him to just hear it over and over, and he needs to hear from other people as well. And we are entertaining a crowd. Knowing the crowd enjoys what you do is a great confirmation that you are doing a good job in many ways. And it helps with confidence for a lot of people, and it allows them to shine more. For myself, having that spring split in 2015 where I casted every game because I was the only color caster, that's why I built my synergy with Quickshot. That is where we became a thing. It was the Trevor Kisme moment in the final. That was kind of the ending of the whole thing. And that was where like a lot of the confidence came in for me. And I became more of myself because I realized that now people are accepting that and they're allowing me to do it. If you don't allow new guys to kind of be themselves because you're just shooting them down instantly, you slow down a lot of things and they might never become what they really want to be. It can be difficult. Some people can handle it, some people can't. So I think like just remember the moments where you hated someone and then you started loving them. That could be the next guy coming in here that you're hating right now. And I think everyone can help kind of push people forward and make it better for everyone.
For more league interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.